You open your banking app on a random Tuesday night. You check your checking account, then your 401k, then whatever is sitting in savings. You do the math in your head. For a second, you wonder, at your age, is this normal, or are you already behind? Most people never get a real answer to that question. They get a feeling instead, usually a bad one, usually built from a headline or a coworker's new car. But the answer actually exists. It is sitting in a government report almost nobody reads, and it is more specific and more forgiving than you think. Here is the first thing that report gets right, that your gut gets wrong. There is no single normal net worth for your age. There is a range, and most people are comparing themselves to the wrong number inside that range entirely. Every 3 years, the Federal Reserve runs something called the Survey of Consumer Finances. It is the most detailed household wealth study in the country. The most recent full data from 2022 shows the median net worth for a household under 35 sitting at just $39,000. By your mid-40s, that median climbs to $247,200. By your mid-60s, it reaches $364,500. Sit with that under 35 number for a second, $39,000. If your net worth right now is lower than that, you are not some outlier failing at adulthood. You are, statistically, half the country your age. But there is a second number in that same report, and it tells a very different story. The average net worth for a household under 35 is $183,500, more than 4 times the median. Why the gap? A median is the household exactly in the middle when you line everyone up in order. An average gets pulled upward by a small number of very wealthy households at the top. When the average sits that far above the median, it is not a rounding error. It is a warning about how concentrated wealth already is, even before people turn 35. So which number should guide you? Neither one, by itself. What actually matters is a different kind of benchmark. One tied to your own income, not the whole country's. Fidelity, the investment firm that manages a large share of America's workplace retirement accounts, publishes exactly that. Their savings guideline works like this. By age 30, aim to have saved the equivalent of 1 year of your salary. By 40, 3 times your salary. By 50, 6 times. By 60, 8 times. And by 67, 10 times your annual income, sitting in savings and investments combined. Notice what that framework does that the Fed's raw numbers do not. It does not ask whether you have more money than a stranger in another city making a different salary. It asks whether you are on pace relative to yourself. A teacher earning $55, Zeus, and a software engineer earning $150,000 are chasing 2 completely different dollar figures. But they can both be exactly on track. So where does the number everyone actually fixates on fit into all of this? The $1 million mark. According to UBS's Global Wealth Report, roughly 23.8 million Americans have crossed it. That works out to about 10% of the population, or 1 in every 14 people. And the more useful detail is not the count. It is the path. The median age at which someone crosses the $1 million line is 50. Most of them took 25 to 30 years to get there. Starting from an ordinary entry-level salary, somewhere in their early 20s. 25 to 30 years. Not a lottery ticket. Not a startup exit. A slow, boring, repeatable climb. One that starts mattering most in the first 10 years, not the last. Here is why. Picture 2 people. Person A starts investing $300 a month at age 25. Person B waits, lands a better job, and starts investing $500 a month at age 35. More money every month, just a later start. Assume both earn % average annual return, roughly the long-run, inflation-adjusted return of the U.S. stock market. Run both accounts to age 65. Person A ends up with more money. Not close to person B. More. despite contributing less out of pocket every single month, and less in total over their lifetime. The 10-year Head Start does more work than the extra $200 a month ever could. There's a quick way to see why 10 years is worth that much. It is called the Rule of 72. Divide 72 by your expected rate of return, and you get roughly how many years it takes your money to double. At 7% a year, that is close to every 10 years. So the first dollar person A invests at 25 is not just growing once by the time they turn 65. It has time to double 4 separate times. Person B's first dollar only gets 3 doublings. That missing 4th doubling is the entire gap between the two outcomes. There is a second reason the 10-year Head Start matters so much, and it has nothing to do with the math of doubling. It has to do with what people do when the market gets scary. Every year, a research firm called Dalbar publishes something called the Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behavior. It tracks what the average mutual fund investor actually earns compared to what the funds themselves earned. And year after year, the gap is enormous. Over the past few decades, the S&P 500 has returned close to 10% a year on average. The average investor in that same market, over that same stretch, earned several percentage points less. Not because they picked worse investments, but because they sold during the drops and bought back in after prices had already recovered. Fear moved their money at exactly the wrong time, over and over. That gap is the real reason an early start beats a bigger monthly contribution. Someone who has been investing since 25 has already lived through 2 or 3 ugly market years by the time they turn 35. They have seen the account fall and climb back. By the time a real crash happens, they already know what a recovery looks like, so they are less likely to panic sell into the bottom. Someone who only just started investing gets tested by their very first scary year with no track record to reassure them. This is most people expect the twist to be about income. It is not. Thomas J. Stanley spent over 2 decades studying actual American millionaires for his book, The Millionaire Next Door. And what he found broke almost every assumption people had walking in. Most of the millionaires he studied were not high earners in glamorous jobs. They were school teachers, small contractors, accountants, mid-level managers, ordinary earners who treated a fixed percentage of every paycheck as untouchable before lifestyle had a chance to claim it. Meanwhile, plenty of people earning far more money stayed at a net worth near zero because their spending rose exactly as fast as their income did. Income builds the pile. Behavior decides whether the pile survives. Think about what that means for the 2 numbers already sitting in your accounts right now. Your salary is mostly outside your control this year. It depends on your industry, your negotiating position, the job market. But your starting age is already fixed, and your savings rate is a decision you get to make again with every single paycheck. Those are the 2 levers the entire report is quietly pointing at. Walk through what that actually looks like to month. It is not a dramatic moment. It is the automatic transfer that moves money into an investment account the same day your paycheck lands before you have seen the number and started making plans for it. It is choosing the slightly smaller apartment 2 years in a row while your income grows. It is not touching the account when the market drops 15% in a bad quarter, because you understand that the drop is temporary and the missing years are not. None of that feels impressive in the moment. None of it will trend online. But run it forward to age 50, and it is the entire difference between being one of the 8 million people who crossed the $1 million line and being someone still wondering, every few years, whether they are already behind. Go back to Fidelity's checkpoints for a second, because they are more useful applied to a real life than they sound in a headline. If you are 30 and your total savings equal roughly 1 year of your salary, you are on pace. Not ahead, not behind, on pace. If you are 40 and sitting at 3 times your salary, same thing. The checkpoints are not a pass-fail test. They are closer to mile markers on a highway, telling you whether your current speed will actually get you to the destination on schedule, or whether you need to press the accelerator a little while. There is still enough road left to matter. And the road left matters more than people assume. Someone who is 30 today and sitting well below that one-time salary mark is not in a crisis. They have roughly 35 working years ahead of them, and under the rule of 72, that is more than 3 full doublings still available to whatever they start putting away now. Someone who is 55 and in the same position relative to their income has a much shorter runway, and the same percentage increase in their savings rate has to work far harder to close the same gap. Time is not just a nice-to-have in this equation. It is the single biggest input. So when you open that banking app tonight and check the balance, the Fed's numbers and Fidelity's checkpoints are not there to make you feel behind. They are there to hand you the only 2 questions worth asking. How early did you start? And what percentage of every paycheck did you protect from yourself before lifestyle got to it first? Your salary matters less than you have been told. Your starting age and your savings rate matter more than almost anything else in that entire report. So the next time you open that banking app on a random Tuesday night, do not ask whether the number matches everyone else's. Ask whether today's version of you just made it a little easier for the next 10 years to double what is already there.